Hi, welcome back to Get Started with IBM Streams. In this video, I'll be walking you through how to complete Lab 3, Applying Advanced Analytics. Okay, so let's start by adding the aggregate operator and another file sync to our application. So I'm going to drag the aggregate operator in, and also a file sync. Now let's connect our filtered operator to our aggregate operator, and our aggregate operator to our file sync. And let's click Layout and Fit to Content to reorganize. Since we've already defined the schema for our filtered stream earlier, any streams that we drag out of filtered now is automatically defined to be the same as our previous one. So these two are the same. Now let's rename our stream to averaged by going to properties. And let's blank out the alias of our aggregate operator too. Let's rename our new file sync to average writer. Now let's define the schema for our averaged stream. Go into its schema properties, and its properties should be ID, our string, time, int64, and average speed, which is of type float64. Now let's tell our aggregate operator what to do. Go into its window properties, and there should be a placeholder here, which we can edit. So let's click edit. Now let's leave the default options selected, so tumbling window and number of tuples - count value. The only thing we want to change here is the eviction policy value to 5. This will read 5 tuples at once, then discard them all. And let's also select the partitioned checkbox and click OK. Now let's define what to partition by, and we can do that by adding a parameter in the parameter section. So let's go into params, add, and select the partition by parameter, and select OK. And let's partition it by ID. This means that all tuples with different IDs will have their own partition. In our case, since our averaged operator comes after we filter our data, there should only be 2 partitions, one that collects tuples with ID C101 and one that collects tuples with ID C133. Okay, so next let's go to the Output tab. And I'm going to maximize this pane just for more visibility. And now let's expand our average stream. As you can see, ID and time already have default values from the aggregate's input stream. However, our average speed is a new attribute that we just created, and we have to calculate its value. So let's do that. Let's click on Specify Value, and to make this easier, let's use Content Assist with Control plus space. And let's type in average. So the first option is the one we want. This syntax is essentially saying that whatever type you decide to average, the output should also be of that type. So for example, if you're trying to average a bunch of integers, you put that into our average function, and the output should also be of type integer. So let's select that. So now let's define what t is. Let's delete the t inside the parentheses and use Content Assist again to see our options. So we want speed because we're calculating average speed. So let's select that. Okay, let's minimize this pane. And now let's finally edit our average writer. So let's go to its parameters, and it has a file parameter already, but we also need to add a format and a quote strings parameter. And now let's give its file parameter a value of average.speeds. So it's going to write our average tuple data to this file called average.speeds. The format should be CSV, and quote strings should be false. Now finally, let's save. And now let's launch our app. Scroll down and make sure that your Fusion scheme is set to manual and you can leave the target number of keys the same. Let's click launch. Now that our app is launched, we're finally going to be taking a look at the Streams console. To do so, let's first minimize Studio. On your desktop, you should find the Streams console link. Double-click on it. This should open it in Firefox for you. Now go to Advanced, and we need to add a security exception. Confirm the security exception, and the Streams console should load for us. Now the username is StreamsAdmin, and the password is just password, with 0 replacing the O. And let's log in. We're initially shown the management dashboard, which monitors the domain from an admin's point of view. We have a useful navigation bar showing the hierarchy of objects and streams. We also have cards for some of these objects that indicate health or the load that they have on the system. It becomes a lot more impressive and useful as you begin to have multiple clusters and more jobs running. Most cards have a gear icon to allow you to further configure the card's settings. For example, right here. They also have a flip option to show you the tabular data behind the graphs. You can resize and rearrange these cards any way you want. Now that we're a little more familiar with the Streams console, let's check out the application dashboard. We can do that by clicking on Management Dashboard, Open Dashboard, then Application Dashboard. There are a few cards here that are different than the management dashboards. The most apparent one is probably the Streams graph, which gives us an instant graph-like view of our app. We can hover over the operators and streams for more details and actions. The do-it-yourself section should have explained most of these cards to you. Hopefully this was a good first introduction to the Streams console and showed just how useful it can be. In the next video, I'll be introducing you to Lab 4, Developing Modular Applications. I'll see you then.